Hello, tender-hearted Cancer. This Tuesday, September 30th, something quiet but certain is beginning to make its way toward you, and somehow it already knows your name. Like a gentle tide, pulling softly through the fabric of fate, it's been traveling in your direction subtly yet profoundly. If you felt something stirring beneath the surface lately, like the deep waters of your spirit, shifting just enough to catch your attention, you're not imagining it. That low vibration sitting in your chest, that instinct pulling deep in your core, it's more than a passing feeling. It's the shape of destiny reaching toward you with hands woven from timing and trust. And I need you to hear something simple but deeply true. You didn't land on this video by accident. It came looking for you. This isn't just another message drifting through your feed. This is alignment, raw, resonant, and real. It's a crossroad forming in the unseen, a place where the rhythm of your soul's emotional wisdom meets the exact moment the universe was always saving for you. And this isn't the kind of Tuesday that slips by unnoticed. It's the kind that cracks open a hidden doorway you never even realized was right in front of you. I see you now, Cancer. I see how much you've carried. How often you've been the nurturing, steady harbor for everyone else to lean on. You've held the weight of love, empathy, and waiting with such grace that even you may have forgotten how long it's been since something truly moved for you. But that stillness, it's shifting now. This Tuesday is not just another ordinary mark between the days. It's a turning point wrapped in simplicity. Maybe you've always thought of Tuesday as unremarkable, just a quiet step toward the middle of the week. But today, spiritually, it's a bridge. And not just any bridge. It connects the life you've patiently nurtured with the one that's been waiting in silence just beyond your reach for your permission to begin. There's movement in the air now. Recognition is close, not the loud, dramatic kind, the sacred kind, the kind that acknowledges everything you've carried in silence. So let me ask you something, Cancer. What if every quiet chapter, every long stretch of stillness was shaping you for something far more beautiful than you ever imagined? What if this moment, this Tuesday, wasn't just a page on the calendar, but a divine appointment written in a language only your soul was meant to hear? Because it is. And if you're still here, still listening, it's because a deeper part of you, the one that understands without needing words, has already recognized the truth rising to the surface. Picture a door hidden in the invisible, trembling with the echo of your frequency, waiting for the rhythm of your yes. That frequency, it's you, your tender heart choosing to believe again, even when it had every reason not to. Right now, you're being gently invited to lean in, to believe that what you've been sensing in your spirit is real, and that maybe, just maybe, the moment has finally come. If your breath is catching, or your eyes are damp for no clear reason, or if your body is covered in chills that feel too precise to dismiss, don't push it away. Don't scroll past. This is confirmation. And if it feels right in your spirit, I would love for you to mark this moment by dropping a comment below. I'm ready. Plus 888. That number holds power. The rhythm of infinite flow, divine timing, and doors opening exactly when they are meant to. When you type those words, you're not just writing. You're anchoring an intention into the fabric of right now. Cancer, your presence here means more than you may fully realize. So let me speak to you from the root of my being. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for bringing your gentle energy into this space, for choosing to trust what's coming through. Every comment, every subscription becomes a seed that helps this message take root and keep growing into something lasting and true. And it's what allows me to keep showing up for you, to keep bringing through the words that were always meant to find their way to your spirit. Believe me when I tell you, what the universe is preparing to show you today is something worth staying present for. So take a moment, breathe. You're exactly where you need to be. Let's begin. The shift meant for you, it's already moving in your direction. Sometimes the biggest changes don't crash in with noise. They slip in softly in the quiet middle of the week, wearing the disguise of a normal day but humming with a purpose only your soul can hear. For Cancer, this Tuesday, September 30th, carries exactly that kind of quiet magnitude. the kind that doesn't demand attention but radiates with the weight of something meant for you. It's a gentle turning point wrapped in calm, yet woven through with the threads of nurturing intuition, emotional depth, protection, and self-care. And you, of all signs, understand what it means to hold those opposites close. But today you're not being asked to hold everything together. You're being invited to feel whole just as you are, with every contradiction resting side by side in stillness. From an astrological perspective, the energy moving through today might appear soft, but it runs deep. The moon, your ruling planet, the gentle keeper of your inner world and emotional currents, is entering into a flowing trine with Neptune, the planet of spiritual insight, compassion, and deep intuition. This alignment doesn't arrive with noise. It doesn't demand, it harmonizes. It smooths out the friction between your heart's longing for emotional safety and your life's responsibilities. Like the moment when a melody finally settles into rhythm, when your deep desires no longer have to wait for emotional clarity to catch up. This is where your vision begins to take shape. It's no longer a choice between your dreams and your duties. This is about receiving what has quietly waited for your readiness. And that truth carries a kind of power that doesn't need to shout. If you felt yourself standing at the threshold of something new, wondering if it's real, if it's time, then this is that unmistakable moment when the door starts to give just slightly under your hand. You may not step through all at once, but Tuesday is when the light begins to seep in through the cracks. It might look like something small, a word that lands differently, a conversation that feels strangely weightless. Maybe a wound you assumed still throbbed suddenly feels softer, like time finally caught up with it. Or a wave of emotion rises not from grief but from release. And no, that's not some random shift. That's alignment unfolding in real time. This moment isn't asking you to chase anything. It's inviting you to receive with the kind of quiet courage that comes only from deeply rooted trust. Spiritually, we're often taught to expect breakthroughs to crash in like thunder. But the ones that last, they tend to move like the deep currents beneath the ocean. Quiet, slow, and impossible to unearth. They come when the noise begins to fade, and you realize that peace was never something far off. It's been quietly growing in the places where pain used to speak, the loudest where bitterness once lingered. Forgiveness begins to settle in. And that long-held need to protect yourself fiercely starts to ease, because something deep within now knows you don't have to. There's brilliance in that kind of simplicity. And this Tuesday is steeped in exactly that kind of energy. A rare opening for you to come home to yourself, to let the clarity within you begin to shape the life outside you. If faith has ever been part of your path, or if you've ever whispered a quiet prayer into the dark, then you already understand. The answers don't always come when we cry out loudest. Most often they arrive like still water, steady, undeniable, and calm. In a world so full of movement and noise, it's easy to miss them. But this Tuesday calls for something else. A pause, a breath, a surrender, not of your hopes, but of the struggle to force their arrival. Not because you're giving in, but because you're finally letting grace do what it's been waiting to do, meet you. And yes, grace is real. It's not something to chase or earn. It's something you recognize when your spirit becomes quiet enough to welcome it in. So if you've been looking for a sign, waiting for some kind of confirmation from within, let this be that moment. Not because it's loud, but because it's arriving right on time. Healing doesn't always look like a crash of change. Sometimes it comes like a blossom opening in silence, like warmth returning to skin that had forgotten what softness felt like, or like this video arriving exactly when your soul whispered for it. Don't be surprised if someone you hadn't expected reaches out. And don't dismiss the chance that something you once thought was lost might return, not the same, but transformed into something even more aligned. Cancer, you were never meant to be flawless in order to begin again. All that's asked of you is to stay soft enough to remain open. And if something in this moment, something in this message stirs that intuitive part of you, the part that knows before it thinks, then honor it. Speak it out loud or hold it silently, like a vow only your soul understands. And if your heart leans in, if it calls you to share, let this space become a sacred ground where you quietly declare, I'm ready to receive what's meant for me. Because when truth is spoken into the air, the very energy around you begins to shift shape. What you're standing inside right now is not pressure. It's preparation. It's promise. It's the slow and certain blooming of something that has long been moving in your direction. There are moments so intricately arranged, so precisely timed, that we don't even realize we've stepped into them until we're already surrounded by their meaning. And Cancer, what's approaching you this Tuesday isn't a coincidence. It's something your soul once chose. Something sacred that's been refined and aligned with your energy, waiting for the exact time to meet you here. Maybe you've sensed it already, like a soft frequency humming through your bones or a breeze that smells of change long before you see its form. That's not a fantasy, that's alignment. And it's drawing closer with each breath. The shift coming toward you might not look like what your mind anticipated because life's most meaningful turns rarely wear costumes of flash and spectacle. They often arrive disguised in the everyday. A message from someone who once vanished without explanation. A voice from the past that finds its way back the moment you finally stopped listening. Maybe it's a path reopening one you assumed was closed for good. Or maybe it's simply a quiet awareness that the old version of yourself no longer fits and that this isn't loss, it's liberation. The surface details may change, but the truth underneath remains. What matters most is the knowing, that unshakable inner knowing, that what's arriving now isn't random. It's a return. It's a sacred response to every seed you've sown, even during your loneliest seasons. You've planted truths made of deep empathy, of nurturing, of a kind of emotional resilience no one else saw, but the universe felt it. And if energy never disappears, only shifts form, then those seeds are still alive. They've deepened, matured, and now they're ready to rise into harvest. In tarot, this kind of quiet power often takes the shape of the high priestess. She who holds the hidden truths. She doesn't announce herself. She waits until you're ready to understand what you've always carried. This week, you may find yourself drawn to people or conversations that stir something ancient in you, a dream you never fully remembered, or a memory that doesn't belong to this life but still feels like home. That's her. That's the high priestess whispering, "It's always been here. You just weren't ready until now." And then comes judgment, not as a warning but as a rising call. This is the moment you feel yourself waking up, realizing you've outgrown what used to define you, that the emotional patterns you once lived in simply don't hold your shape anymore. This is the energy of moving forward, not because you've solved everything, but because the old life has quietly run out of room. And when that awakening energy takes the hand of the wheel of fortune, it becomes momentum. It becomes movement, sudden, divine, and irreversible. You may not be able to trace the full map ahead, Cancer, but something inside you, that calm, ancient knowing, already feels it. The wheel has shifted. The ground beneath you feels unfamiliar but softer now, as if your life is finally beginning to move in rhythm with your readiness. I've seen moments like this unfold in others too. Always simple, always surprising. I remember a woman who had whispered the same quiet prayer for months, not expecting anything loud, just hoping. And then, out of nowhere, a phone call came. A door she had once closed gently was opening again, not because she was still chasing it, but because she had stayed open. That openness changed everything. Life has a way of circling back. When we've let go without bitterness, especially when we surrender not from defeat but from trust. When we walk away not to escape but to make space. What's meant for you, you don't need to wrestle it into place. The emotional soil has already been turned. The roots have been growing quietly. And now the timing. It's quietly ripe. What matters now isn't effort. It's presence. It's having your heart open wide enough to recognize the knock when it finally comes. So Cancer, let me ask you with gentle honesty, what do you believe this surprise could be? If something beautiful arrived at your door this week, completely unexpected yet timed so precisely it could only be meant for you, what would you be ready to receive? Let your inner knowing speak in the comments, not from hope, but from recognition. Write it not as a wish, but as a truth already on its way toward you. And when you do include the number 888, an ancient symbol of infinite return, sacred cycles, and the unseen magic of things that were always meant to find their way back. Let your words be more than a comment. Let them be a quiet declaration. You're not just hoping anymore. You're receiving. Some of the most important days don't start with thunder. They arrive wrapped in stillness disguised as routine. But deep beneath the surface, everything begins to rearrange itself. That's exactly the energy that Tuesday, September 30th holds for you, Cancer. After all the inner shifts, all the soul-deep nudges and sacred confirmations, this moment invites one thing: stillness. Not the kind that pauses you, but the kind that awakens your inner listening, where you can hear the subtle rhythm moving all around you. It doesn't rush, doesn't shout. It moves with precision, with purpose, and it's speaking to you personally. This particular Tuesday holds an astrological signature that doesn't just suggest change. It turns the page silently. The moon, your ruling planet, is now softly activating either your 4th or 8th house, depending on where she falls in your birth chart. And each path brings a distinct invitation. If the moon is lighting up your 4th house, the focus is home. True, unfiltered emotional security, deep roots, family bonds, and the kind of self-nurturing that makes you fall back in love with your own sanctuary, one deep breath at a time. But if the moon is currently passing through your 8th house, the shift goes even deeper. It becomes a profound emotional transformation, a desire to release old patterns, to realign with the purpose behind your deepest connections. In both cases, the message remains clear. Your inner world matters. Your emotional well-being matters, and your journey is sacred, not because it's extraordinary in the eyes of others, but because it's entirely yours. Adding more texture to this movement is Mercury gently preparing to go direct again. When Mercury lingers like this, in between the undoing and the moving forward, it's like standing inside the pause between two heartbeats. The past may rise for resolution. Conversations that felt incomplete might circle back seeking closure. Things once misread may finally unfold into shared understanding. And what once felt blocked could begin to move again, like a gate slowly lifting. It's as if the universe leans in and unpresses the mute button, letting truth come through clearly. And when we widen the lens to look at numerology, the story deepens. September 30th carries the energetic vibration of both the number 3 and the number 9, each one holding profound meaning in this moment of your growth. The number 3 hums with creativity, communication, and playful beginnings. It carries the spark of something new asking to be born. The number 9 brings wisdom, the calm kind. The kind that knows when to release, not out of loss, but to make room for something more aligned. Together, these numbers offer you a gentle invitation. Allow something to close with grace, so that something truer can begin. Not what you've been told to want, not what you've carried out of duty or expectation, but something that holds your voice stitched through every emotional layer. And when you add 3 and 9, the sum is 12, which reduces again to 3. So the message repeats. This is about your expression. This week is not the time to shrink or hold your truth inside. This is the moment to speak from where you are. The cosmic math is clear. Your voice is the key. Through it, the door opens. Through it, everything that's meant for you begins to arrive in alignment. Even color can support your movement through this week. Color holds energy. It listens to your intention. So if you feel your sensitivity rising on Tuesday, September 30th, consider surrounding yourself with soft silver or calming seafoam green. These tones resonate deeply with your Cancerian spirit. Silver nurtures the soul emotionally, energetically, and spiritually. It's a color that reminds you to honor your intuition and treat yourself with the same gentle care you so naturally offer others. Seafoam green brings depth, emotional healing, and clarity. It calms the inner waters and keeps you rooted in your truth, even as the currents of change move softly through your life. Every hue is a frequency, and frequency always finds its way to those who listen. When you match what you wear, what surrounds you, to the feeling you want to live inside, something powerful happens. You create harmony that speaks louder than words ever could, a quiet frequency the universe responds to. This is the perfect moment to turn inward and try a simple reflection. Take your birth date and add it to the number of the day, 30 inches the month 9. Don't overanalyze. Just let the number sit with you like a softly lit candle. Does it feel familiar? Does it spark a new awareness? Let it be a mirror, not loud, just present. Let it lead in its own way. And if you feel called to share, post your number in the comments. You never know. Your insight might be the exact confirmation someone else has been silently waiting for. And through all of this, Cancer, hold this truth close. You're not being pushed. You're being gently guided through grace, through the quiet wisdom of your own intuition, through the slow unfolding of a knowing that's been with you long before it had a name. This Tuesday is not just a coincidence. It's intentional. It's been stitched into your energy long before you noticed. All that's left is for you to meet it. Just one act of courage, one honest conversation, one small but sacred choice to trust the rhythm beneath it all. And this week could open in ways that no plan could have prepared you for. Healing doesn't always wait for you to chase it down. It finds you in moments like this, not because you're broken, but because you've carried too much for too long, all in silence. The energy surrounding this Tuesday doesn't ask more of you. It doesn't want you to hustle. It wants your presence. It wants you to gently lean into what's already unfolding inside. You've moved through long stretches of quiet devotion times where you wondered if anyone saw your effort, your empathy, your care, but it wasn't missed, not by the rhythm of life. And that's why now, with nothing left to prove, you're being handed something different, something deeply earned, something true. You are the gatekeeper of what comes next. You don't need the outside world to shift before your own world can begin to transform. Sometimes all it takes is one breath, one moment of clarity, one return to stillness that allows what's next to find you. Picture this. If the week ahead is a doorway, then Tuesday is the instant your hand wraps around the key. Not because someone finally handed it over, but because you were always meant to remember. It was yours the whole time. We often describe transformation in dramatic language, storms, fires, epiphanies, but more often it begins with something quiet, something ordinary, a ritual you return to between the noise. Cancer, you don't need to become someone new. You only need a soft reset, a return to the version of yourself you've been too busy to feel. And that reset could be as simple and as sacred as giving yourself a few quiet minutes today to breathe with the 4-4-4-4 rhythm. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and rest for 4. Let the repetition guide you. Let your body remember what your spirit already knows, that slowing down is not weakness. That stillness is its own kind of strength. Now let's turn toward money, not with pressure, but with purpose. You don't need a windfall or a miracle to begin treating your finances with care. Just sit with it. Sketch out a gentle 3-month vision, not a spreadsheet of what's missing, but a map of what feels meaningful. What do you truly need to feel secure at home? What matters to you in terms of emotional comfort and stability? What do you want to make space for? This too is sacred work. Because when you move with intention, instead of urgency, you start honoring the version of you who's been quietly waiting to be heard. And when it comes to love, Cancer, no one needs to remind you of the depth of what you give, your nurturing, your loyalty, your heart. But what if love didn't have to feel like endurance this time? What if it felt like warmth, like shared, rising, like something you didn't have to earn with emotional sacrifice? Let yourself soften, not because the past didn't hurt, but because it no longer gets to decide what's possible now. Reopening your heart isn't about inviting in pain. It's about creating a space where real love can find you slowly, steadily, without demand, and with emotional safety. And if your work has begun to feel heavy, uninspired, or quietly misaligned, Cancer, don't rush to rip it apart. Just pause, listen in. Ask yourself, what part of me have I ignored? What dream inside me hasn't been given room to stretch or breathe, especially in how it nurtures others or creates a sense of belonging? Often we don't feel lost because we've strayed too far, but because we've silenced the voice within us, the one that once burned so clearly with direction. This week, Cancer, even 5 quiet minutes, 5 grounded minutes of true stillness could be enough to bring you back into touch with what matters most. One of the most gently powerful things you can do right now is this. Write down your intention and anchor it with the number 888. That number holds more than meaning. It carries the pulse of flow, of sacred return, of abundance that finds you when you're aligned. Don't just jot down a hope. Write a direction, a tone, a truth that says, I'm ready. Leave it in the comments, not only for yourself, but to amplify the current running through this shared space. Your voice matters, and what you set into motion now might ripple farther than you can see. And if time has felt strange lately, if your days seem to stretch or blur in unfamiliar ways, let me remind you, you're not imagining it. The rhythm is shifting, and it's shifting because you are. This is your moment to respond with clear intention. So if you felt something stir inside you, even faintly, let it move. Say it aloud. Write it down. Let it travel from your inner world into the atmosphere, because expression is its own form of transformation. And once a door opens, everything starts to move. There comes a moment, often so quiet you almost miss it, when the noise fades and the world feels like it's holding its breath just for you, Cancer. That moment may arrive for you this Tuesday, September 30th. It won't be loud. It won't announce itself. It may last only a few seconds. But in that single breath, you'll feel a stillness so deep it leaves no doubt. Today is different. That anchored feeling inside your chest, that soft but certain shift, that is spiritual movement. Not because something outside has changed, but because something inside finally has. It's the moment you realize you're no longer waiting. You're ready. And often, that quiet readiness is what shifts everything. Not because the world suddenly rearranges itself, but because you begin to see with different eyes. That's the real beginning, that inner yes. There is a rare kind of power in soft realizations. A thought that rises from nowhere but lands like truth. A breath that fills your chest and you finally feel it fully. One quiet second where something unspoken becomes so clear it settles into you like gravity. And from that stillness, the atmosphere starts to respond. It's like dropping a stone into calm water. The sound is gentle, but the ripples travel farther than you expect. And just like that water, your inner world starts to reflect a new kind of light. When that light shifts within you, everything around you begins to echo it. I once heard a story about a woman who had been moving through long, quiet struggle. She had journaled, she had prayed, she had waited, nothing changed. But one morning, without knowing why, she felt pulled to step outside early. The air felt cooler, the sky looked softer, and without trying to solve anything, she whispered, "Show me what I've been missing." That same day, she received a call, an invitation that opened a door she'd long assumed was closed. Not because it was grand, but because it reminded her of something she'd almost forgotten to believe in. Later, she said, "I nearly missed it, but something in me listened." That's how real turning points arrive. Not with noise or fanfare, but with a whisper you didn't know you needed. You don't need a 5-year plan to feel aligned. You don't need to be flawless to receive what's been meant for you all along. What you need is presence, enough stillness to hear when your soul says, "This is it," that moment of resonance, that inner nod. That's not coincidence. That's the universe answering your readiness. We often wait for big signs before trusting our own decisions. But the real shift happens when you stop waiting for outside proof and decide to stop rehearsing the old story. When you begin to live from that deeper knowing, life begins responding with a new kind of chapter. And Cancer, this Tuesday might just be the page where that chapter starts to unfold. This is your invitation to pay attention to what's quietly rising, to trust the feeling in your chest more than the noise around you, to believe the nudge even when it doesn't come with logic-only truth. So ask yourself gently, have you ever had a moment like that, a second where everything just clicked and you knew what had to change or what no longer had a place in your life? If you've been there, share it. Let your story become a small light for someone else walking through their own quiet shift. And if that moment hasn't come yet, maybe it's just now reaching for you. Maybe today is when it arrives. Speak it, claim it. Let your voice ripple through this space like something sacred and shared. We're not here to push each other toward change. We're not here to push one another into transformation. We're here to gently remind each other that it's already happening quietly from the inside out. So, Cancer, if you're still with me now, take a slow breath. Let it move across your chest like a soft current of grounding, and feel this truth settle in. You didn't land here by coincidence. This moment, this message, this Tuesday, September 30th, it isn't just another date on the calendar. Everything you've heard, every flicker of emotion that stirred in your chest while listening, it's part of a larger rhythm, a pulse that's been humming beneath your days all along, just waiting for your attention. You've walked through long seasons of silence, of uncertainty, of quiet, unwavering strength. And now that long-held ache in your chest, that question you've carried, it's being answered. This is the moment the universe whispers back. We've walked together through reflection, intuition, and now into the movement that follows alignment from internal clarity to external readiness. You've remembered how to hear your truth, not through noise, but through resonance. And now the question gently rises. What will you do with what you felt? Will you honor it with one simple act of courage? Will you speak what's been unsaid? Draw a boundary with grace. Choose a step, not out of fear, but rooted in trust. You don't need to change everything overnight. You only need to begin with one real action, one honest declaration. That alone begins the ripple, because energy isn't just a concept, it's a current. And every current begins with a choice. So what if this week, instead of searching for signs, you moved like you were the sign? What if you spoke as though the door had already opened? What if you lived like what you're asking for is already yours to hold? What if this wasn't a possibility, but a confirmation? Cancer, you are not behind. You are not lost. You are exactly where you're meant to be. You're the one the universe trusted with this moment. You're the one chosen to feel this shift. And the next chapter, the one that's ready to open, starts with you. Maybe this is the point where it all begins to turn. Not because the world outside has changed, but because you finally have. So don't let this pass by, like a breeze brushing your skin that you forget to notice. Let it enter you. Let it root. Let it shape how you move through the next 24 hours. How you speak, how you believe, how you make space for yourself without rushing to fix anything. Let it soften what you've expected of yourself. Let your faith settle deeper into the soil of who you truly are. And if your heart is nodding now, even if it's just the faintest flutter of knowing, then don't let it pass like a passing thought. Anchor it. Step into the comments and leave a message that marks this moment. Let it be small, but certain, your quiet declaration of readiness. Add the number 888 beside your intention, your truth, your one word that captures where you are right now. That number isn't decoration, it's vibration. It carries the rhythm of infinite return. The sacred circulation that begins when you finally say yes to receiving what's been trying to reach you. So tell me, Cancer, what are you ready to receive this Tuesday, September 30th? What opening are you ready to believe in now with your whole self? What emotional burden are you finally willing to lay down so that grace has room to take its rightful place in your hands? And before we part this space, I want to thank you truly. Thank you for arriving with your full presence, for staying with this message long enough to feel, for allowing yourself to receive it not just as words, but as something sacred. Every like, every comment, every moment of your energy here expands the light within this field, making it more possible for these words to find others who have been quietly asking for something to reach them. This isn't just a video. It's a shared space for souls who no longer wish to perform, but who want to rise not through force, but through truth. So hold on to this feeling. Let it stay with you softly. You've been preparing for this possibly longer than you realize. And what you've been waiting for, it's already arriving. Maybe not in the exact form you pictured, but in a shape that feels unmistakably, undeniably yours. Cancer, walk forward now, like someone who knows the season has turned. The chapter that's unfolding isn't an end. It's the beginning of a brand new current. One built from the steady, quiet yes that now lives deep and unwavering inside you. And I'll say it again slowly because it matters. This gift, it was always meant for you. Until we meet again, stay rooted in your emotional truth, stay open, and always stay ready. I'm deeply honored to have shared this sacred space with you.